try to find the sunny side of life.
Hi, I'm Harry Marks, and this is Let's All Go to the Lobby, your introduction to the film you're about to watch. Up next is John Huston's film noir adaptation of Dashiell Hammett's novel, about a private investigator on the hunt for an elusive bird statue, while he dodges shifty criminals and tries to clear his name of his partner's murder. This is 1941's The Maltese Falcon. Starring Humphrey Bogart as Sam Spade, this is actually a remake of the 1931 adaptation with Ricardo Cortez in the lead role. The original was successful in its own right, but was considered, quote, lewd according to the Hays Code implemented a few years later, and so it was practically buried for several decades. Warner Brothers tried to remake it in 1936 with Bette Davis under the title Satan Met a Lady, but it was widely panned and mostly forgotten. But Huston's version was not. In fact, it's considered one of the greatest films, let alone one of the greatest noir films ever made. It was also more faithful to Hammett's original text, though Hays Code limitations forced Huston to remove the references to nudity and homosexuality that were prevalent in the book. As for the role of Sam Spade, Humphrey Bogart was not the studio's first choice. George Raft, who had previously been seen in 1932's Scarface alongside Paul Muni, was offered the part first. He refused, citing Huston's lack of experience as a director. Falcon happened to be Huston's directorial debut. Raft also had a clause in his contract that prevented him from starring in remakes. All the better for Huston, who formed a lifelong friendship with Bogart that carried on through several more films. Falcon also marks the on-screen debut of Sidney Greenstreet, who had spent 40 years prior as a stage actor. But perhaps what has cemented the film in the minds of moviegoers everywhere is the Falcon itself. It wasn't just the ultimate MacGuffin for the film, but for collectors as well. Numerous people over the years have claimed to possess one of the original Falcons made for the movie. At least 6 were produced, with one made of metal and weighing 47 pounds, according to script supervisor Metta Wild. This particular statue happened to fall on Bogart's foot during production and damaged a few of its tail feathers. That prop was sold to hotel magnate Steve Wynn for $4.5 million in 2013. Leonardo DiCaprio also owns one of the original Falcon statues and even lent it to the production of his 2019 film Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where it shares the screen with actress Margot Robbie. The Maltese Falcon turned out to be a huge hit for Warner Brothers, so it was no surprise that the studio wanted to make a sequel. Huston wrote a script titled Three Strangers, and many of the Falcon's notable characters were set to return, including Bogart's Sam Spade. However, Dashiell Hammett had to remind the studio that even though they owned the rights to the book, they did not own the rights to his characters, and so all the names in Three Strangers had to be changed. But that didn't stop Peter Lorre and Sidney Greenstreet from returning, even though Bogart stepped away. And you might notice another familiar face in Huston's unofficial sequel, the character of David Shackelford, played by Alan Napier. Napier is perhaps best remembered as Bruce Wayne's faithful butler Alfred on the 1966 television show Batman, starring Adam West. So here it is, the film that arguably kicked off the genre we know today as film noir and cemented Humphrey Bogart as leading man material for years to come. Also starring Mary Astor, Sidney Greenstreet, and Peter Lorre, here's 1941's The Maltese Falcon.